too, Hunter. I really do.
All right.
Right now,
Well, you better get us some then.
you supposed last. I thought you had. I gave you an assignment last week for the assignment request. Did you go out and buy one, get one free, and you can buy one and send me the other one?
I thought it was the other way around. You were going to buy two.
Oh.
Franklin James
Stewart. That's what it's all about.
It's all about deliberately misinterpreting.
But I wanted to say, like, you never know, these computers still may be video. Let me see, choose a video type.
All right, well, I sent you an invite. Let's go.
On Facebook?
Nope, on your regular email, because we can't do Facebook yet.
Let me go there and see what I can do. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Launch? No. Accept invitation. There he is. All right. Oh, I forgot to stop the recording. All right, we're on. Hey, Frank. What is this, episode 1 million of Frank and James discuss, or Frank and Frank discuss?
Yeah, well, another day in this journey.
Yeah,
brand new day. Hey, so what's on your agenda for the day, other than this chat you and I are having?
I'm going to help the neighbors move. The kids are at a track meet. That's about it.
I wish you were my neighbor, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, so Tanya and Nathan are moving to Bernalillo.
Okay.
But, one interesting thing is Ben and I transported a horse yesterday or last week, and the lady was asking Ben what his hobbies are, and he's like, I don't have any. He's like, oh no. I was like, oh, he's like me. I like helping people move. I like being kind, and those are my hobbies. So I guess I read books, but all that skiing and hiking stuff, I'm like, I don't know.
I guess hobbies. I like planning stuff. Well, I like building stuff and erecting stuff and stuff. So I've got some of my loving seeing my tulips coming up now. They're beginning to peak up, and I had to put them in two sessions. I thought the ones that I had with like 250 bulbs would have fill out this one section that I was putting this as a raised bed, and it's
Right.
8 by 4 foot by 8 foot, and so I weather them over the winter and let them do their thing. And when I went to put them in first of spring, about a third of the bulbs weren't any good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So now I got a half a bed full of tulip bulbs. So then I had to go out and buy some more bulbs. And so now the first ones are in, but it took about 2 or 3 weeks for the second bulb to come in. Start video. I just got a thing that says your host has asked you to start a video. Let's see.
Let's see if it'll work.
It's like the same thing. Who knows? Recording. Recording. I'm not sure if we're recording, but so anyway, so I'm waiting for the second planting of tulip bulbs to start poking their heads up. I'm kind of like a little child, I'm looking. I can see the ones that's already started from the bedroom window, and I'm planting some other seeds. And went out and cut some weeds yesterday. Like, wow, cut some weeds and planted some bulbs. And so talking about hobbies, I guess that's kind of hobby because I love seeing things grow. I love seeing life, new life. I mean, it's like talk about the day, a brand new day. I like that. It's just new beginnings. I always love them. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And even today, I got to go out and I've been able to cut down some wild grass and trim some azalea bushes back and trim some other bushes back, and So I was able to get enough energy up to cut them down. Now I got to go get some energy up to rake the yard to get them out of the yard.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm always reminded Rome wasn't built in a day. So do what I
There you
can
go.
today. And I like having stuff to do, you know, even like you with your work and helping people, man. We both like doing stuff other than just kind of sitting home examining our own navel.
Right.
I heard it many, many years ago. That really registered to me because a lot of people, and you think about it, a lot of people spend their whole life examining their own navel, or even just their own neighborhood, even to be adventurous enough to even to seek some ideas about different cultures and different people or different countries. And
Right.
it surprised me how some people who with a lot more institutional education I have base their lives are in a little small box within a block or two of their neighborhood. And we hear that a lot of time on movies, especially in movies where on one block there's one group of people. I don't want to say gangs, but they call them gangs, or one group of people.
Yep.
One block has one identity, and another block has another identity. So very few of us really want to cross over to the other because they don't look like us, they don't speak like us, and they do things differently.
Yep.
And that has never been your eye. I guess we were smart enough to not accept people for who they are. If they show up to be someone other than the kind of people we like being around, we move on.
Yeah.
But we kind of accept people at face value until they prove otherwise. And, I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. That reminds me of what Barb and I are working on with just always looking for the best in everybody around us, doing that consciously again and seeing how that changes how we interact with the world. And it's interesting because I think most people are on the fence about how to treat other people. So if you treat them kindly, they're going to treat you kindly. And that seems pretty simple and obvious. And then the big thing I've run into is how do we deal with the people who are going to treat you poorly no matter what, up and including up to and including violence? How do we deal with the world where there's people who are just going to harm you, and the only way to stop them is violence? And I don't know. I don't really have a good solution. I guess nobody else does because we're still doing all the same stuff.
Well, I have a Frank Terrell theory.
All right.
And I think it all begins and ends with us, how we treat ourselves, and how and once we find a true value for who we are, then that's the place, the point from where we begin to live. You know, that point where we stand, and
Right.
and I think once we know who we are, we attract like-minded people, like-minded spiritual people into our world. And when someone else comes in, or some opposing force, or comes in, or a different force, we know that instantly. And I remember just reading yesterday, we were talking about instincts, and usually when I know for me, whenever I follow my instincts, say don't go somewhere, don't deal with someone, and because I just thought I was so smart that I could deal with them in spite of my instincts saying don't do it, almost in every case, Jaime, I've come up short in that relationship. If I'd have followed my first instinct, I would not have come up short. I would not have been in a relationship at all.
Right.
So we can't save everyone. And if a person doesn't want to be saved, you can't save them. And
right.
Even with the salting of the oats, as we reference sometimes, we can only save those who want to be saved.
Right.
And I guess in the salting of people's oats through our lives, I would rather be a person that someone will see something about me that they may want to emulate. And remember,
right.
As a kid, the saying that the highest form of flattery is imitation. So we have to work on us first. And I think that in and of itself, because a lot of that speaks volumes to other people, even when we're walking through places. I've been places, and I remember when I had the exchange students here a couple of years ago, and we were in a restaurant, and this lady walks in, and we just sitting there, the three of us, the two boys, myself, and she's going into the ladies' bathroom. I don't know whether she had drugs or money or whatever it is. She was going to the bathroom. She said, "Sir, would you mind if I leave my purse here with you?" I think it was a purse. Or I say a bag. I won't say a bag, but purse. And I explained to the guys why she did that. And my understanding that came, another story that I read many, many years ago, I think was Thomas Jefferson, when he was in his carriage approaching a bridge. And there was a lady standing at the bridge, and he noticed there was one or two carriages that went across the bridge before he got to the bridge. And when he got to the bridge, his bridge, the lady flagged him down and asked him if he would give her a ride across the bridge. And he was accommodating, and he says to her after she gets in the carriage, I noticed there were several other carriages that went across before me, and I noticed you never flagged them down. And he, why did you ask me? And she responded to Thomas Jefferson, because you looked honorable, you looked honest. I knew I could trust you.
Right.
And I think when we get to that place, when we learn to trust ourselves and we learn honor, if that's who we are, want to be, people will sense that. Like the lady in the restaurant. I mean, so people, some people want to approach some people just, and sometimes I got on my mean PTSD Marine Corps face, and I know people don't see me. And I was looking in the mirror the other day, and I was in a really happy mood. I just come in off my front porch for my little evening meditation. I'm looking in the mirror, washing my face, wash my hands, getting ready to have supper. And I looked in the mirror and I saw myself at that point. A lot of us don't even look at ourselves. And I realized that's the face that my wife sees. And there's a place in the Bible also that talks about looking in the mirror and walking away and forgetting what you saw. And a lot of us, we don't look at ourselves. We see, our face is clean, our teeth are brushed, we shaved, whatever we're going to do, but we walk away from the mirror and forget the person we saw in the mirror.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to be more conscious of, I used to belong to an organization called RBI, Income Builders International. And they had an exercise, and they encouraged us every night before you go to bed, look in the mirror. Last conversation with that guy in the mirror. And you look, I mean, you can lie to yourself. You can't really lie to yourself. Even when you look in yourself in the mirror, you know you're telling yourself a lie. But if you're going to be truthful with yourself, you say what you need to say to yourself. We don't talk to ourselves, we talk to other people. And from that place, and the last thing we were instructed to do after having a little conversation, we tell ourselves we love ourselves. And so most of us don't think about that. We love other people and all kind of stuff. So even I found it to be very, very valuable in my life. Those little nuggets of survival, learning to love oneself. I never forget when they did the movie about Muhammad Ali, the greatest. And I think George Benson wrote the song, "The Greatest Love of All is Learning to Love Oneself." And very few people know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking with a friend about that aspect of having the confidence in yourself or self-love, whatever you want to call it. And it's interesting because some people will very unself-consciously just do that. They're okay. And that's an interesting aspect too. But I was thinking more about, so like the Russian invasion of Ukraine, how do we deal with those kind of things when soldiers are coming into your town and killing you? What do you do? How do you stay morally sound, and how do you survive physically with that kind of, right?
Well, our lives, or my life is built on many aspects or parts. And I'm thinking when someone asked the Dalai Lama about why he did not stay and fight his country, and he basically says, well, I'm a man of peace. If I were to would have stood and fought, that mean I had to allow war into myself, and I did not want that. So getting to the Ukraine right now, Jaime, you and I don't live in the Ukraine.
Yep.
And whether it's Somalia or whether it's Afghanistan or whether it's Vietnam for me, which I got into my life, is still in there.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhat counterproductive when we get emotionally involved with even a current event, because on any given day, any one thing we could see, we're going to have a natural reaction, even like back to Ukraine, when the bombing there in the train station, all those innocent people just trying to get out of town. They're not soldiers. I mean, you can't help. I mean, if you have 1 ounce of humanity in you, you got to be touched by that. But you got to see it. Send prayers and energy to the people, to the universe, because this whole thing is much bigger than you and I. We can't internalize it, because then the life that we have becomes we lose the benefits of the presence of our presence, and only our survival is from everything I've learned is based on how we see and respond to the present moment, our present situation. So we got to stay cognizant and conscious into what's happening now. So I see it, especially for me, when I've been scarred by war. I can't internalize it. I mean, I see it. I can't get too involved, and I see it, and okay. But I mean, for the last month, almost month and a half now, every day, I mean, 24/7, be it any one of the news channels, we could be right there in the war. And that tends to get inside of us. Yeah. And you and I, neither one of us are diplomats. We're not in any position. We aren't on any world organizations to be able to have any response. We could basically share our feelings or for support to our elected officials. But outside of that, what else can we do?
Right.
And
right. That's a great one. Says, what situation are we in right now? You and I, we're in pretty good situations in our lives. And I do see a lot of people being very unhappy and then mistreating others in their lives because they're so upset about what's going on in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that brings up the big geopolitical issues. And I'm just, okay, we can set those aside, but nobody's really concerned about what's happening in Yemen right now. And it's, I wonder why. And there are a lot of good reasons. But again, how do we maintain our equanimity now and treat people around us well in this world right now where all those things are going on? Yeah, that's a great one to remember that. Yeah, that is happening. But if we start acting out and mistreating people here, it's not going to make the situation better anywhere.
You know, as you were saying, I was thinking about how for all of my life, I've always associated Switzerland with being a neutral country.
Right.
And that's pretty much been the basis for Switzerland. I don't know, you may know of some time in history when Switzerland was invaded, but I don't know of any that I can recall. But I'm thinking now that since Switzerland has decided to make a public support for Ukraine, how is that going to, that one little act in a direction that they basically have not lived in or participated in for all these hundreds of years. Now that one decision, how does that change the future existence of Switzerland? And it will.
Yeah.
Like any decision you and I make. I mean, so anything that we do outside of, I guess that place that we have chosen to be in, we change. I mean, it's just you can never go back to being the same way that you were. Never.
Yeah. You know, interesting when you think about how, in my personal case with my family, the way the other siblings were treated by other people dictated how they treated me, and then I got mad, and then the whole thing went to, it went to pot. So it's funny because we do run into that a lot, that and this little interactions, you go into the county office to get a permit or something, and the person before you screamed at them and called their names, and their boss yelled at them, then they mistreat you or me, and then we get mad at them, then we mistreat them, and it just escalates into it's like the butterfly's wings almost, right? If we go in and say, oh wow, I bet this person's having a hard day, and think that way instead of, wow, this person's a real jerk, changes the whole way that interaction works. So those little things, and then maybe you accidentally, just by being in the moment and being kind, prevent the escalations that happen that we then look at and say, oh, well, we have to be violent because of people. And it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe we stop all these little reactions to little violence, and it slowly de-escalates the whole world. And you don't have to worry about the Ukraine or Yemen or the invasion of Iraq or any of that stuff. Very interesting.
Well, as you said, I'm just thinking of several incidents. I try to stay in tune to my day-to-day activities, reactions with people, just interactions with people. And I'm thinking of two situations which happened within a week or two of each other. And one was I was at the VA getting some prescription filled, and I didn't have one of my medicines. I hadn't taken it that day, and I go to the pharmacy. It was a non controlled medicine, and although they send me this medicine enough for 90 days, I didn't have it that day. It's one of the things I had not taken that day. And it's been very easy for the pharmacist to go back there and just give me to me. I mean, they can see it. I've been prescribed, well, you can't get another, but you're going to be all right. And I allowed his response to me to have me to kind of yell out at him, challenge him.
Right.
And for whatever reason, he had all the right within his jurisdiction to respond the way he did. I was more or less responding because he wasn't responding the way that I thought he should have.
Right.
He didn't have an obligation to respond to me the way I want him to respond to me. And so I went out there a little upset, and I started, and this conversation right now, I'm probably not going again for seeing, I'm going to apologize. But
right.
then 2 days ago, I go to the post office, and wasn't one in the post office. And just to sake of conversation, I live here in West Virginia. There's a lot of community differences, shall I say, in the environment I live in, and people, the attitude is just, it's not the friendliest. But anyway, I'm in the post office, and the cashier, the post office person, this had to be African American like myself, and she and I was the only one in there, and I'm sending a notice that had to be certified, and I had to make sure I get this. So one in there, so she gave it to me. I had to fill out these 4 little papers. While I was standing, someone came in, so I just moved out in front of her window so someone else could go there. She was the only one working, and I had the pin that was in front of her window. So the woman comes in to do whatever she's going to do, her transaction, and she didn't have her ID. So she literally has to go outside and get her ID out of her car, comes back in, she shows the lady ID, she sets it down next to her to the left of her. I'm off to the right there. And so she had to sign something. So I had a pen, so I gave her the pen. And so she didn't say thank you for the pen. That kind of, it was okay. But anyway, I'm standing there looking, and I see her license, which is an ID, on the counter next to it to the left. So I just watched it and looked at it, and I made sure I didn't move it and move in that direction. So she finished her business, and she started out the front door. I said, "Man, you want to take your ID with you?" She turned around, looked at me, and just, didn't say Jack, Joe, kiss my foot or anything. She came back and got a license and left. So when I went to the cashier, I said, I said, back in the day, I would have said, "You're welcome," and the cashier said, "Why didn't you?" And I could have said that, and I could have been a guy who stole the ID.
Right.
But it's like, we have to control. I mean, I wanted to say you're welcome, and that would have been kind of I'm being flipped at that point.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I did the right thing. The woman left her ID there. She needed it. Why not? Why not just say, "Hey, man, give it a heads up"? Whether she said thank you, now I did the right thing, and I should not expect anything from her. I did what I expected of me, what I would like for me to do. I did what I would like for another person like me or like-minded person to have done. But her respond to me, she had no obligation to respond to me in any way, shape, or form. She didn't have to say thank you.
Right. It's true. And you don't know what was going on for that person.
Exactly.
Maybe they were super upset. Maybe they have some fear.
Could be on drugs, alcohol, and anything. And like you said, anything, and whatever was going on, it was in a place that I didn't even need to pass judgment on it, because again, I did what I was supposed to do, and that was my total responsibility to do the right thing. I mean, Spike Lee's movie, "Do the Right Thing," because the right thing is the right thing to do, and that's all. Do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and doing the right thing when it's a little more difficult or or there's some confusion. That's that's really where we can change the world. I really want to think about that, the butterfly effect of kindness,
Mhm.
because I don't know, I think maybe it's an American thing, but it seems universal. We all want to make these huge, big changes in the world, or we feel helpless, right? Because we think, oh, we got to change the world in order for it to be okay. And then reminding myself, oh yeah, the idea of the butterfly wing creating a turbulence that eventually creates a hurricane.
Mhm.
What about the reverse of the little act of kindness that prevents a hurricane through ripple effect through humanity? So I'm going to really start thinking about that consciously when I'm being kind, and when I'm tempted to be upset or angry or judge. So we judge people, right? And then we act on that judgment. That's a bad person. So I'm going to be a smart ass to them in your case of if you'd have said that. Or I'm going to be rude to the clerk at the store because I'm mad at my wife or husband, or because last time I came to the store, they were rude to me. Or, and this is the story things that we tell ourselves, right? All the stores are trying to rip me off. So I'm going to go in there with the idea they're trying to rip me off. Then I'm going to be rude to this person. And that's funny because there was just a little article about Trader Joe's where the clerks at Trader Joe's in Santa Fe are worn out because everybody complains about the parking lot to them. Why don't you fix the parking lot? And of course, as a store clerk or a stocker, you can't do anything about the parking lot. But then they're starting to get upset, and then they're starting to treat the customers rude. And so there's a little, the same thing, right? The little acts of disregard or cruelty or judging somebody or blaming people has the same effect of slowly growing as it passes through society. And I think about the Oscars event where one guy slapped another guy. It's like, how many things had to come together for that person to lose control in that situation? And it wasn't really about that situation too much. It was about all the other things in the world, and then in these two persons' individual lives.
As a story comes to mind, I read several years ago, a guy on his way to work, and he gets caught in traffic. So he's late to the office, and he had an appointment or something at the office, but he's already late. Goes in, the secretary greets him, and for whatever reason, he's late. His day's off schedule. His schedule's off. He confronts the secretary with what she's doing or what she wasn't doing. All you do is sit around and talk on the phone, whatever, all day. And so several events happen all day. And at the end of the day, he goes home and kicks his cat. And all these things are linked to him getting caught in traffic in the morning.
Right.
And so we never know we're going to someone, as you're stating, we're going to an environment where someone else is there. What's going on in their life? They could have a sick. They could be sick themselves. They could have a health issue.
Right.
They or one of their family members, or financial problems going on. They could have problems on their job. I mean, sounds of things to be happening in that person's life. And we tend to, again, because they're not responding in the manner that we feel they should be acting or responding in.
Right.
That now our day gets offset because we have internalized their stuff. And
right.
now I find myself doing it less now than I used to, because again, having conversations like this, but I really get upset myself when I allow it to happen, because I know now that I have a choice whether I internalize this person's different character or behavior than mine. And so I have a choice whether I internalize it or just let it fall to my feet and still smile, say good morning, good afternoon. It's a learning process. I mean, and I think your children are still young enough now to get the benefits of your wisdom.
Right.
And like you got the benefits of your mom, the way I got benefits of my parents.
Right.
And even with that, we still got to learn. And most of the stuff, even we get these little nuggets that's been given to us by the teachers or in our lives, until we come to the place that we really understand and internalize it and accept it as a part of who we are.
Right.
And we choose who we are. I mean, we choose who we become. And you know, it's so easy to blame it on my mother, my father, I'm black, this, that, and the other. And that. Man, I mean, even right now with all the crazy stuff going on in the Ukraine and in Russia, there are people who are becoming enlightened. There's still people who are. I love this new saying, woke now. I mean, it's eh, woke is like it's past being, it's past waking up. You know, you're there, you have arrived.
Right.
And I tend to wonder how many people keep thinking that they're woke and they're still in the process of waking up. And so we got to make sure we don't put ourselves there too.
Right.
Interesting. As you've heard me say before, I'm probably here at 74, probably more alive today than I've ever been in my whole life.
Wow.
I'm loving it. I'm each and every day. I tend, like I said, I went to the VA hospital and basic general physical I have every 6 months. Go there and talk to my doctor, and you see someone every 6 months. Over years, you kind of establish a little rapport. And he didn't say specifically, but I can hear it in his voice. For a man of my age, I got a little high blood pressure, but it's under control. I don't have any a lot of stuff that people my age have. I've done a lot of supplements, and I do that. I'm somewhat conscious. Yes, I'm still overweight. I got to work on that. Hopefully, I'll get that under control.
You got to get some more apple pie there, Frank.
Ah, bro. Yeah, that's the problem. I had a whole pint of ice cream last night. I had some ice cream. Oh man, I sat down and like some of the best ice cream I ever had last night. Man, it was good.
All
and
right.
now I'm sitting there looking up and shaking the head.
It's worth it.
Yes, it was. Interesting journey called life, my friend. And we, man, and you know, we talk about Ukraine and Russia, man. I'm just so thankful that we're in the United States of America with all its problems. All this problem. You know, one of the things I think about too right now, and we won't get into politics too deep, but I was just wondering, sitting on my porch yesterday, I do that probably every evening now, at least a couple of times a week, just go in the evening after supper to sit on and watch the sunset. And I was just thinking, man, can you imagine what would be going on in the world right now if we had the former president in the White House? I mean, it's
well, yeah, that's
think about.
Yeah, and it's interesting again because that guy didn't. The combative attitude spreads, right? And that was the big thing with him was everything's a fight, and we're going to win all the fights, and we're going to make more fights because fights are good. And when you win fights, and the good guys win, and it's like, what? Where does that end up? You know? So yeah, be interesting to see.
The sad part about that, Jaime, is even like in wars, you get these guys, be it Putin, be it any other head of state, they go and start these wars, and the people that fight the wars are the poor people down on the bottom of the society.
Right, and that's a curious thing. First of all, one thing, you know, like the former president did say, that guy would have been too scared to invade the Ukraine if I was president. And it's like, oh, that's the thing I was trying to think about. What do we do with the people who, when you treat them kind, they see it as weakness and then they attack you? And there are people like that. And I don't know. I really don't have a good, I don't have a solution.
Well, the thing is, Jaime, we got all these investigations going on in various different
right.
law enforcement department and jurisdictions. I personally believe, on my view of the character of the former president, he and the Putin are more like brothers. I mean, they're comrades. I mean, they admire each other, just like the leader of North Korea. These are people who have, you know, they got these armies, all these people, and have control of all this economy and this, and they're still. I mean, we've heard about it all through the civilization, where there's always been an active army that wanted to rule the world.
Right.
And these people get to that place that, where do I go to from here in ruling the world? So Ukraine is just another place right now. Vladimir Putin would have been everything everything that he could, that you and I could have possibly ever wanted to be in his life. He was already there. What does Ukraine add to his legacy other than now, kind of like the slap we talked about at the Academy Awards?
Right.
That everything happened prior to that. Both of those two men lives changed because of that slap, and one's going to benefit, as we see here in the media now. One is benefiting in a positive way now, and others kind of been sanctioned in a negative way. And at the top of his career, I mean, the night he wins his first and only Oscar, he falls just that fast. And life is like that, Javi. One bad decision on either one of us, with all the great stuff, good work we've done beforehand, that one bad decision is a thing that they're going to be remembered by for the rest of life.
Yep.
But the most beautiful part about being here, you still can change it, but you never gain back the ground that you lost. You know?
Yeah. Well, you got to move in a different direction. Yeah. So that's
I find myself a lot of times, because one of my growing up, Bill Cosby was the America's dad. I made a lot of little things he said. This registers being positive, good philosophy. I mean, no matter what he does at this point in his life, I'm so happy now he's basically going home and keep his mouth shut. I mean, he's got enough money. He's got everything he wants. I'm so proud of his wife, who's never come out publicly anything against us. She's divorced him or anything. What if any role she played in it? I don't know. You don't know, but still, I'm glad that that's out of salary. He's an old man now, as a bona fide senior citizen. Go home, enjoy the rest of your life, and lick your wounds and try to do something to make some amends to somebody other. Do something good. He has enough. Like you and I, we do stuff for people. We don't have the kind of resources that any of these people have.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they do something for someone else other than themselves. Watching on Facebook this morning, a posting by Shaq, and Shaq has made a commitment every day to do something to change somebody's life. And he was in a Walmart store, and he was at the cash register, a little kid behind him, and he says, "Little boy, do you have a bike?" Little boy said, "No." He said, "Ask your mom, can I buy you a bike?" And I mean, he's doing it promoting himself, but at the same time, he's promoting goodwill.
Right.
And so we can, so whatever his motive is, I mean, that's a good thing to do. He's there, this innocent kid. He goes and buys himself a bike, and he explains every day, I try to do something to help somebody else.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changes the the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I was thinking about. Have that confidence, as the Star Trek character Spock says, that the universe is unfolding as it should, and therefore I'm going to act in a way to support that, the universe being as it should. And I guess that's what I was thinking about, really, was that lack of faith. People are always like, well, you always got to prepare for the worst in terms of other people's actions by being aggressive towards them first. And I'm like, yeah, that's where you end up with wars, is because everybody's preparing for the worst and nobody's treating each other well. And so you see Mike Rowe doing his show on searching out kind people and rewarding them, and Shaq just going and doing random acts of kindness, and then us trying to share that, and then being kind to yourself so you don't have that anger and rage at yourself that you then turn outward. And like that lady in the post office you're talking about, maybe she was mad at herself, maybe somebody had hurt her, you don't know, and you just say, okay, I acted with honor in this case, and I didn't respond to their fear and anger. So
I'm probably my number one critic, and I think we should be that for ourselves. We and we need to, when we do wrong, and there's, I mean, only person I know through all the history I've ever read anything about this that was perfect is only one person that history has characterized as being perfect, and I know I'm nowhere near that. So I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to make errors. Yes. But what do I do with it? Do I learn from it, or do I continue in that place? Right. I like to learn from it and not to repeat it. And if I could brag a little bit, I think that may be in part why I'm able to sit here at 74 in the home that I'm in. I've got issues. I have challenges, But
Yep.
none of them right now. Am I pulling my hair out, or I'm feeling destitute behind, or feel even like right now with my apple pie? Man, the more I get into wanting to do this business, I'm realizing there's a whole lot of stuff and paperwork and setting up a legitimate business.
Yep.
And
Yep.
at my age, there's so much stuff that I don't have the skills. Even like you and I are trying to this morning, doing this recording.
Yep.
Man, the computer, and I'm sure doing a live chat on Facebook is probably real simple, but it's like anything else. You need to know how to make that happen, and you have to have the proper tools and skills and experience skills to make that happen. And I'm sure when we figure that out, it's gonna be like,
that's what I like about you and I too, is we just go for it. We try to figure it out.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people I'm talking about this with, and oh no, it has to be perfect at the beginning, and I'm all, it isn't gonna be perfect at the beginning. It's never gonna be perfect. So how do I? And I don't know, maybe this is good, maybe it's bad. For me personally, I just start things, and then either they start to get better or I move on to another thing. I don't have to be perfect to start something. And that's a whole nother thing. I got to wrap up and go help these folks move. So what did we talk about that I really heard today? Using the butterfly effect for kindness and for cruelty. We got to love ourselves. Oh yeah. And so I always tell, there was this woman I was in love with. She's like, you can't love me. Look how horrible I am. And I'm like, hey, I love me and you know me. So why can't I love you?
Amen.
And I said, I'm perfectly, just like you, I'm perfectly imperfect. We are who we are. Look in the mirror, enjoy it, and look for one thing you can really admire, one thing you can really make better. So
man, look, I'm gonna add one more thing. I know you have to go. I'm thinking about this guy who was a sculptor, and he had a great big piece of marble granite that brought to his studio, and he had a big door there. And this little kid went by the day that they bought the big stone was delivered, and the kid would go past it every day and see this guy and they're chiseling on the stone. And one day he comes to the sculpture was finished, and he sculpted a line out of it. And the kid said to the little boy, how did you know that line was in there? He said, because I looked at it and I just worked with it. And that's kind of what we have to do, Jaime.
Right, with ourselves.
You're talking about loving someone that don't love themselves. You had to see something in that person to love. Yep. You saw something in them that they didn't see in themselves.
Yep.
And so that's what we have to do. We always got to look for the best in every situation. And if we look for it, more like we'll see something, Pop. We'll see some light.
We'll find it. Yep.
Have a good day, my friend. Love you, my man.
All right. Love you too. See you next
day. Be safe
Saturday
out there.
or Sunday. All right. Bye-bye.